you've had two goalkeepers during the qualifying process. Matt played very well. Zack's done well, particularly the other night. Going back and going through this whole competition, how do you weigh the two when you made that decision to switch over, given Zack's level of minutes? What went into all of it, and how do you assess it going forward now?
Yeah, so it was a difficult decision. It wasn't something that was easy based on how we thought Matt was playing. He played really well in the Gold Cup, only let up 1 goal. In qualifying, let up 2 goals in his 5 games. And it was more, we were looking at the games and how they were unfolding, and we were saying there's a number of possessions that we can be keeping in these games that we're not. And we think Zack is stronger with his feet. We made that decision based on that. It's, again, they're 2 very high-level goalkeepers. There's not much, separating them, but in this particular area where we think it was an area of need, we thought Zack was ahead, and so we made that decision.
Thanks.
Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg. Obviously, you guys have seen Jamaica once, but it'll be different playing them here in Jamaica, and the roster will be different. Specifically, obviously, Antonio is expected to play, probably start at top.
Yep.
How do you prepare? How much do you look at the last game versus kind of look at the way they play at home, or look at the group differently? And how do you prepare for a striker like Antonio?
This is amazing, by the way. Right? Where is this from? This is great. See all the stuff they have on it. Jamaica, no problem. That's nice. Thank you. Yeah, whoever gave that, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So and we expect Antonio to be in, and Leon Bailey, and they didn't play against us last time. They didn't play against us in the Gold Cup either. And it's just preparing for them. Just like Mexico had really high-level attacking quality. So does Jamaica, and we have to be prepared for that. The rest of the team we're projecting to be pretty similar to what we've been facing. And then it's also a matter of what we can do and how we can pull them apart, how we can get behind them. That was a focus of last game. And we have to see how we're able to do that. We'll go to the field today, test out the field conditions, but we want to be aggressive in this game. We want to pull them out of position and be able to take advantage of some of the spaces that open up.
Daniel Nora from Univision.
Greg, thank you for your time. I want to ask you, do you feel like something have changed in your team since the debut in the first game against El Salvador, especially that night against Canada in Nashville till today, and what have changed? And the second one is, how much will the field condition will impact in your decision of the starting room?
Yeah, so I don't know the impact of the field. We haven't been there yet. So we'll go there today and we'll be able to assess it. But absolutely something's changed with the team. It's normal. I mean, it's something where I talked all the time about how inexperienced we are, how young we are, and we need to gain that experience. And what I've seen is just the understanding increasing of what this is about, what these games entail, the level of competition. And I think we dealt with it in a decent way. I think we're going like that, and we're understanding what these games are like. And tomorrow's going to be an important game for us. Important game to show that we have learned all these lessons, and we do know what this qualifying is about.
Ron Blum, Associated Press.
A lot of the games you've been happy with the performance, some games not.
Panama we weren't.
What?
Panama we weren't, right? Yeah.
No, but in terms of what have you learned throughout your career of getting a team to be up for consecutive games a row and row and row, and not just peaking for certain games and then having letdowns?
It's a good question. I think in the coaching world, you talk about trap games, you talk about, putting that last game behind you. The next game's the most important game, right? There's a lot of talk surrounding, that next game. And for us, something I said to the team before the Mexico game was, was, yeah, we want to beat Mexico. It's important, but we have bigger things to focus on, right? I mean, that's a game that's going to get us to our destination, just like Jamaica's a game that's going to get us to the destination. And you have to put just as much energy into both of these games. And for us, you know, our big picture is qualifying for this World Cup. And all Mexico does is put us closer, but the Jamaica game can put us even closer to qualifying. So for us, it's a massive game. And we're, you know, when I had the team meeting yesterday, I said that as soon as we walk out of this meeting room, Mexico's done. It's in the rearview mirror. Now the focus is on Jamaica.
But is there anything, like, it would seem a natural tendency for the players to get really sky high for the Mexico game, and how do you get them
But
to
I think
do
it's
that?
behavior. I mean, I think it's behavior. It's how we're acting around now. You know, everyone. You know, there's a positive feeling, but it's not like we're looking backwards. You know, everyone's getting focused now on the Jamaica game, and we know it's a different circumstances. But our jobs is to bring, you know, similar type of intensity into this game.
Grant Wall.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Grant.
Do you have the number one goalkeeper right now? And how are you approaching the thought process to replace McKenny and Miles Robbins?
So we have players, you know, obviously Miles and Weston are important players for our team. But, you know, when we made this roster, you know, the message to the team is that everyone's here to contribute. And, you know, it's next man up mentality. You know, either Mark McKenzie or Chris Richards will play at center back. Both of them have qualifying experience. And either Kellen, Gianluca, or Sebastian will play in midfield. So we have options there with guys that have World Cup experience. So regarding, you know, the number one, number two, like I think, you know, when you look at the choice of Zack to play in the Mexico game, you could infer that he's ahead of Matt, and that would be normal to infer. But what I'd say is that, you know, it's also up to Zack keeping his form. We're not hesitant to change goalkeepers. That's, you know, it's not something we're adverse to. And we know that the competition is really tight, and they're pushing each other, and I think that's a good thing. And he adds Sean Johnson into the mix, and you know, other goalies that have been around, Ethan Horvath, how he performed in Nations League. You know, we want competition for spots.
Should we look for Zack to start tomorrow?
Zack will start tomorrow, yes.
A total of 34 players have earned caps through 7 games in this qualifying cycle, 26 making the World Cup qualifying debut. Kevin Baxter, LA Times.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for your time, Greg. Speaking of that, it's a great segue into my question.
Yeah.
Most national teams, it seems to me, there's a World Cup, they take some veterans from that World Cup, they bring new players in, and it continues to rebuild like that. Looking back now 5 years from 2017, you guys had the ability to tear this down and start again. Dave brought a lot of the guys out of the core of your team, McKinney, the 2 Robinsons, Josh Sargent, in during that period. With the, you know, the value of hindsight, was maybe 2017, you know, an important moment in this team because you get to start over again and you can look at this incredible young team you have?
I don't know that. I mean, if you think about the process, you know, since 2017, and I can speak in more detail about, you know, the end of 2018 and 2019 is, you know, we did have veterans around, and we knew that, you know, we appreciated veterans, we value what they do, we value the experience that they can give to the group. And it was a matter of time before we can phase in some of these other players. You know, you think about Gio Reyna at that time. Think of, you know, Serginho at that. You know, these guys were 17 years old. So for us, it was just a matter of time, you know, until we could start bringing these younger players along. But I think the program, you know, in terms of this group and the longevity of this group, I think is in a good spot. But our job now is to keep performing.
Thank you. Brian Strauss, Sports Illustrated.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, what you said before about inferring Zack as the number one, I think there's a tendency, maybe from fans, maybe from us, to kind of imagine an ideal 11 for a team.
Yeah.
You see that with teams that do well in World Cups, they have a core. I don't feel like you guys have one. Do you feel like there's an ideal 11 for this team? Do you wish there was? Have you been pursuing one but can't just lock it down because Serginho gets hurt and Gio gets hurt and Christian, you know, or is that not what you want? Do you want there not to be an ideal 11 and for every guy to feel like everyone's at sort of the same tier of the player pool?
Well, I think it's theory versus reality. That's what it comes down to. In theory, you know, if we say, okay, this is our best 11, how often are these players available? And I remember that was something that Bruce told me when I was taking the job. We were talking about it, and he's like, Gregg, you're not going to have these players available all the time. Something comes up. Something always comes up. And I think the better that we can accept that and then build the team based on that and have the collective buy-in that guys know that they can contribute and they should contribute and that their job isn't to be a passenger, their job is to help this group be successful. It's not about, captain or not captain or number one goalie or number two goalie. It's not about that. It's about the team being successful. And that's what we're focused on. And that's what every guy's focused on. There's not a big ego in this team. There's not, guys that, command a ton of attention. The guys just do their jobs.
It was funny when Tim the other night called Christian the star of the team. And Christian's started only 2 of 7 qualifiers. So you guys are playing essentially without your star and still in first place.
Sam Stejsko from The Athletic.
Speaking of Christian, how is he recovering after the match? Do you anticipate that he'll be available to start tomorrow if you decide to go that route? Is he fit enough to do that?
Yeah, I think it's, again, it comes down to a judgment call. It comes down to how we feel he can best affect the opponent. We could have started him against Mexico. We didn't want to start him against Mexico because we knew that he couldn't go the full 90. So it's going to be a similar type of question that we have to ask for this game. If we do start him, how much time can he play? And then, what does that look like for the game and getting the result of the game? So for us, it's still up in the air. What I'd say is that he's come along really well after the game. He trained yesterday. He'll be full in training today. So we'll see.
Megan Swanek from The Guardian.
Hey Gregg, kind of building on a
Hey, Megan.
with my question. Given that it's a shorter window and there's more time between games, how much rotation can we expect in the starting lineup? And I'm wondering if we'll get a chance to see Joe Scally feature at any point and how he's been looking in camp.
So Joe's done okay. For a young player to come into camp and the guys, know what this is about. It's great for Joe to be able to experience what World Cup qualifying is. So really happy with the fact that he's in camp and he's been doing really well with his club and doing fine with us as well. In terms of potential game time, we'll have to see how the game unfolds tomorrow. See if he plays or not. He won't start the game though. In terms of
How much rotation?
in terms of the rotation, we know we're going to have to change 2 players, and then we'll see. Today it will be a really good day for us on the training field because we'll see who's ready to play, who brings the right mindset and intensity to training, and then we'll pick the lineup. We haven't chosen a lineup yet.
Okay.
We'll take a couple questions from those joining us from the United States. We'll start with Charlie Bone from MLSsoccer.com.
Hey Gregg, my question for you is, I think you may have heard what Walker was saying before you came in. He went from being off the roster a month or 2 ago to playing a big role, and so I wanted to ask about that process, which kind of follows on from what you said a little bit earlier of making everybody involved, and then also him in particular, how has he developed the skill set that you want, maybe since you've been working with him?
Walker, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of these, difficult things when we're plotting a roster for the window. We're very specific on what type of profiles we're looking for based on the opponent and based on what we're looking to achieve against each opponent. And it turned out in that one window, Walker wasn't part of it, and we had other guys that we thought were ahead of him at the time, and we also were planning substitutes and what the potential substitutions could bring for us. We were looking at our opponent. One was Honduras, really good transition speed, so we were a little bit concerned about that. But the conversation with Walker was really upfront and really open. And I said, this is where we see you. This is how you've helped us in the past. We still see you, bringing value to what we do from a leadership standpoint. We chose this direction, this window, but that doesn't mean it's permanent. And, Walker was one of those guys that got his opportunity and really thrived and really played a great game against Jamaica in that first game, and then played a very solid game against Mexico as well. So really happy for Walker. You know, he's a great guy off the field. He's a good veteran leader in this group, and you know, we really need him. In terms of you know, his performance, again, I thought it was strong against Mexico. I thought it was really strong against Jamaica. And, you know, he gives us a good aerial presence and, you know, does well in build-up and was able to defend transition moments really well also.
Next will be Ivis Galarcep from SBI Soccer.
Greg, this is going to be your fourth time playing Jamaica in the past 8 months, which, you know, isn't normal for national team matchups. And the past three have all been wins. How much emphasis are you putting to the guys about, you know, maybe not taking them for granted just because of those wins? Because it's kind of natural for a team, once they've won that many times against an opponent in a short time frame, to feel maybe like you know, it's a little easy. And a separate one on players who come in not having had many minutes in their club level. Eunice and Mackenzie is two examples. How do you kind of manage that and strike that balance of how you incorporate them? You lean on diagnostic testing to see where they are physically. How do you kind of manage those kind of players?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ivis. You know, we're fortunate to get a lot of the data from the clubs, so we know what they're doing, you know, 4 weeks before they come into camp. We have every single training session, every single game. And in Eunice's case, you know, he wasn't getting game time, but his training is at a really high level in terms of how they push the guys at Valencia. So we were confident that, you know, he's a guy that can step on the field and play 75 plus minutes. You know, we're pretty sure in that, and you know, and he did really well in the game. Now it's about how does he turn it around and get ready, you know, for the next game if he's chosen in the starting 11, and that's going to be the recovery side of it is going to be really important. So that was that.
Next will be Emily Olson from USA Today.
Hey Greg, I wanted to expand upon Charlie's question a little bit beyond Walker. There's a lot of talk about how deep this pool of U.S. men's national team players is. Can you describe a little bit the work that you and your team have done to communicate to those players that aren't necessarily coming in to make sure that they know, hey, we might not need you now, but this is a long stretch of games?
Yeah, it's a challenge because, you know, I've been there, and it's never nice to get a phone call and saying you know you're not part of a camp, and you think, okay, I'm out, I'm done. And what I try to do is communicate to the guys that that's not the case. Things can change very quickly, and you know, we consider you part of the program, and for this particular window, we chose for another person. And really, all the players can do is focus on the form at their club, if they're playing, and their work rate, and just keep working hard and having a good mindset and attitude. And then, you know, it's up to us to make the decisions. Hopefully we're making the right decision for each window. But for the players, I think the important thing is communicating, and then you gain some understanding of why we made the decision.
Last question for Greg comes from Mike Watala from Soccer America.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg. Back to Walker for a second. We talked a lot about the experience players are getting by playing abroad, playing in strong teams in Europe. What advantages might there be to have a player on the field who plays in MLS, such as, you know, you might know more players from playing with them, against them, or, you know, anything else you think might be an advantage to be an MLS player in qualifying?
Yeah, I can see that. You know, the couple advantages are, you know, generally guys that are with the national team and playing in MLS are playing every week, so they're getting consistent game time. The other thing is there's a ton of players in the CONCACAF qualifying that are in MLS, so they're familiar with these opponents. And you know, a lot of the stadiums they're familiar with, they played in before. So you know, there's a number of advantages to that. And for us, you know, we're more looking at, you know, how can the individual add to the collective to help us be successful, and not what team they're playing for.